Hello everyone, this is part 41 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Who cannot do what? Guki Namikaze asked his apprentice. The leaf traitor had arrived at his junior's room to request a status report, only to find Nagato in the trance that indicated one of more of Pain's paths were locked in combat. He observed the slightly younger shinobi in fascination, still intrigued by the Kekkei Genkai that afforded Nagato the power to resurrect and control up to 6 other people. A few minutes later, Nagato had snapped violently back to awareness, and made his almost fearful exclamation. Naruto Uzumaki, the true Pain panted, he broke, no, destroyed, my Naruto path's right knee, even though my skin of torment was active. Guki pondered that, well, if I remember correctly, the skin of torment only stops around 95% of the damage from physical attacks, while increasing the pain of the attacks, and turning that pain into strength. Combined with that body's naturally high endurance, it gives you the illusion of total invulnerability. Perhaps his attack was such that even only 5% of its power was enough to inflict that kind of damage. I know 6, maybe 7, jutsu that could do it, and I suspect your Shinra Tensei or Shinra Bansho could do it as well, if you're built 'em up enough. Nagato shook his head. Guki frowned at the denial. The other option is that his ninjutsu somehow bypassed your skin of torment, Minato's brother added, but still Pain's head rotated in denial. It wasn't a ninjutsu, Nagato explained, noting his teacher's confused expression. He hit me with that stick of his. That is all. He hit you with his staff blade. He was transformed into his fox form, the former Akatsuki leader admitted. I've heard interesting things about his kitsune. Guki's turned away from Nagato, wonder filling his voice, but I may have underestimated it. This may be one of those rare, 1 in a million weapons, on the level of the Kusanagi or my siphon. It may be time for you and Konan to pull back, his master's tone solidified again, and Madara too, if you can dislodge him. No, Nagato protested. Guki frowned at him, and he explained, I can finish off those annoying twins, and then repair my animal path, and have her patch up my Naruto path. Then Konan and I can face Naruto and Hinata, 3 on 2. If Konan is not already out of commission, Guki noted darkly, not happy to find out that both of Pain's paths were injured. Hinata just screamed in agony, the Rinnegan bearer noted, that is what set Naruto off. And we need Madara for the next phase, don't we? Alright, Guki sighed uncertainly, I will give you a little longer. But I would rather save you two and abandon Madara, than risk losing all of you. Thank you, Guki-sensei, Nagato nodded, and then closed his eyes, focusing on his 2 paths again. Did you see that? Kei exclaimed, slipping into his normal, deeper register in surprise. Keiko glared at him and he corrected the error, continuing in their matched voice, Naruto-san took him down in 1 hit, after telling us he was invulnerable. Obviously that intelligence was incomplete, Keiko stayed in character, but I doubt we would be able to achieve the same thing. We should stay with the original plan. It is still too early for you children to underestimate me. Naruto Pain's eyes cleared, and he surged back to a standing position, though the bottom half of his right leg was twisted at an odd angle. Ninja art, Event Horizon Jutsu, Keiko announced, having started signing as soon as he spoke. To Pain, the twins appeared to start moving faster, and he again lost track of which one was which. In addition, his body felt heavier, too heavy for his lone leg to support him. He ignored the feeling, and placed his hands in the familiar formation. Release, he counted, and as soon as the illusion broke, he began forming his response. Dual arts, feet of clay, he completed, and the dense, yet flexible material flowed out of the dirt, wrapping his legs up to the middle of the thigh. The thick layer of clay turned his leg back into the correct position, and he took a step forward onto the damaged limb experimentally. Satisfied by the result, he jumped forward, catching the closer of the twins. The genin ducked under the fist, but was unable to avoid the kick to the left hip. The leaf warrior tumbled away, but landed standing, bleed from the left eyebrow. And now I can tell the two of you apart, Pain noted matter-of-factly. Good for you. Keiko wiped the red from her brow, no longer trying to mask her voice. Shadow snap. She buried a single kunai in the Naruto path's shadow, and he stared at her incredulously. Rather than waste his chakra, he took out a flash bomb, altering the shape of his silhouette long enough to escape from the immobilizing technique. Then he shook his head. Weren't you taught not to use that against a real ninja? He asked, taking another step closer. But she smirked back. Don't you know a distraction when you see one? She shot back. Kei glided in behind Pain, his hands before his chest. He started to blast a chakra-laced mist at the layer of earth supporting the Rinnegan Use's broken leg. But the Naruto path casually slammed his good foot into Kei's nose and mouth. The teen tumbled back, and Pain smiled gently at the angry kunoichi. Yes, I do, he said, preparing to sign again. Hinata blocked the invisible sword with Ginmaki, then twisted the wind blade away, trying to get close enough to tag Conan with her gentle fist. The elder kunoichi hopped back to avoid being touched. Even if your bloodline lets you see it, you shouldn't be able to block it like that, the origami user noted, curious and mildly shaken. Hinata did not answer, she slipped closer to try to hit Conan with her glowing fingers. The renegade brought her sword down, but the leaf shinobi was too close. Hinata blocked the sword, and angled her digits towards Conan's elbow. Nagato's lover was not able to dodge, so she sent one of her, regular, pieces of paper to intercept the blow. The gentle fist broken through the chakra in the page, and it fluttered to the ground, lifeless. Dozens of pages littered the floor around them, and Conan had wrapped most the ones she had left around her upper body, to protect and hide her technique tags from immediate view. Hinata was waging a war of attrition, slowly eliminating her opponent's resources, and though it pained Conan to admit it, the younger woman was winning. She had tried to re-establish the link with her unique ammo, but the Hyuga heiress had prevented that as well. Pain's partner had tried to use her extra techniques to even things out, but she was also limited. Inside the Uchiha hideout, she couldn't break out her biggest and most powerful attacks. Or rather, she could, if she were willing to put herself and her abhorred ally at risk as well. Rotation. Hinata's heavenly spin did not stop the semi-solid air blade, but it did stop the paper sword it was crafted over and the hand that held it, so the effect was the same. Conan ended the wind jutsu, and instead channeled her energy into a tag just under her right B. Kaiten, grasping Inferno Jutsu, the paper user reached for the pale beauty with giant hands of scarlet flame. 8 trigrams palms, Holy Cyclone, Hinata's enhanced version of the Hyuga technique knocked the fire release jutsu away, but did not end it. As soon as the teen's dome fell, Conan's enhanced hands closed in on her again. The burning digits grabbed onto Naruto's lover, but instead of being burned, the leaf kunoichi exploded. Shadow clone. Conan retreated back to the door, on a bound not to let the younger woman pass. Where is she? Ninja art, illuminating light. A bright glow leapt out from the paper user's palms, and it melted away the arts Hinata was using to hide in the shadows of the opposite corner of the room. Are you running out of ideas? Conan asked honestly, torn. She did not want to let Hinata escape with her secret, but she knew Madara would be overjoyed if she killed the teen, which was reason enough to let her live. And the former Akatsuki member couldn't risk being drawn away. No, I am just trying to determine the most efficient way to end this, Hinata answered. Her voice carried neither doubt nor boast, and Conan frowned her opponent's assurance. Fuyutan, cyclone pressure, the paper user sent chakra into a tag on her right hip, and then to the circuit directly under her left collarbone. Dual arts, Inferno lightning jutsu. A twisting mass of wind hit Hinata powerfully yet gently, pinning her to the wall and lifting her off the floor. Then, from Conan's right hand emerged a bolt of forked lightning, but orange in color and far hotter than natural lightning. 8 trigrams empty palms, Hinata turned over her right arm so her palm was facing Conan, but pointed her left hand down. One column of energy disrupted the wind jutsu and even pushed Conan back into the door, while the other empty palm propelled Hinata upwards, out of the path of the combined fire, lightning technique. The younger woman flipped up, landed on the ceiling, and then sprang toward the former Akatsuki kunoichi, a Rasengan once again glowing in her right hand. Interesting way to use that technique, Conan noted as she jumped to the side, spinning to direct her foot at Hinata's back. It is better to master one jutsu and use it creatively, The Hyuga heiress quoted as she rolled forward under the kick, "Than to barely know a dozen jutsu, that you can only use in one way." Did you hear that from Jiraiya-sensei as well? Conan sounded mildly wistful as she recalled the line. I heard it from Naruto, Hinata answered, but he must have heard it from Master Jiraiya. Well, I think I will take your advice. The paper surrounding her abdomen flowed out to Conan's arms, and the special sheets under her top and pants followed suit. Keiko hopped back, struggling to stay out of Pain's reach while keeping her eyes on both her fallen teammate and Pain's unconscious alternate. The earth-water jutsu not only replaced the Naraka's path's damaged limb, it also enhanced his speed and agility. The young Kunoichi had hoped to run her opponent out of energy, expecting the hybrid technique to be a heavy drain on Pain's chakra. But only 2 minutes after Naruto's departure, she recognized that her plan would not work. She was having to spend her chakra to keep away from Pain, and she was woozy from where her head struck the ground. In desperation, and a small hint of hope after Naruto's success, she drew out 2 kunai, and threw them. They barely dimpled the skin of his left arm, before bouncing off and dropping to the earth. Darn it, Kay, she mumbled to herself, you were supposed to delay and decoy, so I can knock him out. Why did you get in close to use cleansing, instead of hitting him with another genjutsu? Trouble? The Naraka path asked. Despite Naruto's injuring him and escaping, Nagato could not help but have his interest piqued, and even be somewhat amused, by the young woman. Unreliable partners, impossibly strong opponents, she shot back, I'm sure you can relate. He snorted in appreciation, nodding. Then, what if I told you could go? He offered openly. Fine. What? Despite having sounded honest in his offer, Naraka Pain was taken aback by her acceptance. My orders were not to engage you, she answered, and if that happened, to escape as soon as I could. So if you are offering to let me go, I have to accept. Then she paused, her lips turning down, though I suppose I should inquire about my short-sighted cousin over there. I don't suppose you would let me take him, too. In both locations, Nagato sighed in thought. He could not decide if the girl was attempting to fool him again. Following orders fit with his expectations of the leaf, but that was only if she was not lying. But if she is being truthful, I can restore my animal path, he considered, and go after Naruto Uzumaki. By all means, he agreed magnanimously, I know how important loyalty is to the ninjas of the Hidden Leaf Village. Keiko blinked once, then she sighed and shrugged, I suppose that means I shouldn't just leave Naruto and Hinata behind. Would you make up your mind? His eyes narrowed and his mirth faded into annoyance. Then he stumbled, and his Rinnegan flashed again. All right, she smirked, then I think it's time to stop stalling. He glared her, as his vision wavered. What did you? He demanded, how did you? She pointed to his arm, and he looked down at the 3 senbon buried into his muscle. He reached up with his right hand, and extracted the needles, but still he felt nothing. Then his eyes flicked to the kunai lying on the ground a few meters away from him. Kei dropped his genjutsu, and instead of collapsed on the ground, the young man was crouched facing his cousin and their opponent, though there was still a trickle of blood leaking from his nose. Your ability protects you from things that hurt you, she explained, but a little topical anesthetic to prevent you from feeling the needles, a painless poison, and... She let the statement trail off smugly. Keiko. Kei shouted in warning, as the Naraka path lunged for her. She hopped back, and Pain collapsed to the dirt just short of her. But she failed to comprehend her partner's warning, until Yugito's claw ripped into her back. Conan wrapped her fire jutsu tags around the outside of her origami claymore, and sent just enough chakra to them to give the blade a superheated aura. The burning energy was mainly to prevent Hinata from destroying the weapon with the gentle fist. She swung the heavy blade overhand at the younger woman, who blocked with both of her coat. Then the Hyuga heiress shifted her weight, diverting the sword towards the floor with her left arm, while freeing up her right hand to stab at the origami user's heart. Conan removed her right hand from the sword's grip, and instead knocked aside Hinata's strike, wrist to wrist. The leaf ninja attempted to cut her opponent's arm by widening the lightning projection of Ginmaki, but the renegade has already spun away, aiming her claymore for Hinata's midsection. Again the braces absorbed the blow, but their owner was pushed back. Conan lashed out again, using her weapon's reach to keep Hinata at bay. In turn, Hinata tried to trap or redirect the sword long enough to move in and land a blow on Madara's reluctant defender. At an impasse, the former Akatsuki member switched tactics. Conan held her claymore vertically, and split her hands horizontally. The long blade split in two, and in the process, 5 of the pages, each with an attached Kaiten tag, folded into a shuriken and launched at Hinata. As the pale beauty dealt with the blazing projectiles, the sheets in each of the paper user's hands folded into a kama. Each of the harvesting tools had both Suten and Raiten tags on the outside. Nagato's lover closed the short distance between them, and swung her small sides in at 2 different angles. Hinata blocked with Ginmaki, and the aura of water chakra around the kama disrupted the lightning projections of the coat. The Byakugan user aimed her fingers at the weapon in Conan's right hand, but the origami expert switched the elemental energy around the paper to lightning, and Naruto's lover had to stop short so she did not shock herself. Conan slashed with her sides again, and this time when Hinata blocked, she hooked the blades around the teen's braces, and yanked them wide, giving her a clear kick to the younger woman's sternum. The Hyuga Saiyan fell back, coughing for her breath, and Guki's student followed. 8 trigrams, Heavenly Cyclone, Hinata spun, sending out her chakra to push Conan back. As her jutsu ended she retreated further back, while her opponent recovered. After she stopped moving, Hinata briefly examined the shallow cut on the underside of the right arm, where the twisting kama had sliced her skin around the straps of Ginmaki. But as Naruto had promised, the new fasteners were scored but intact. Rasengan, Uzumaki's partner intoned, a slightly larger than normal sphere forming in her right hand. I'm not going to let you get close enough to use that, Pain's partner advised, a touch of smugness in her voice. She sent out another sliver of her chakra, and the kama lengthened and shifted until they were hook swords. She lifted the weapons, holding her left hand blade high and right sword low, both pointing in the same direction and parallel to the ground. She waited briefly for Hinata to make her move, but the younger woman just stood there, slowly increasing the size of the Rasengan. Having heard about Naruto's Odama Rasengan, and not sure if her opponent could form a sphere of that size given sufficient time, Conan took a step forward, preparing to leap at the leaf kunoiki. Hinata watched the tension build in the renegade's legs, until it reached the point of no return. 8 trigrams, empty palm, Hinata suddenly thrust her arm forward as Conan left the floor. The Hyuga technique launched the Rasengan, and also provided a chakra conduit for Hinata to keep the orb energized and stable. Conan's eyes widened as the turbulent ball rocketed towards her, too quickly for her to defend or dodge in her current position. The Rasengan struck her solar plexus, and both the orb and the empty palm propelling it forced her back into the wall. Hinata's attack ended, and the former Akatsuki shinobi slid to the ground. Conan's eyes fluttered, and her hand landed close to one of her fallen swords. She focused her attention on it, and started to extend her chakra to the weapon. Hinata! Naruto roared as he burst into the room. Conan had to struggle not to lift her head. Instead, she stopped reaching for her weapon. She closed her eyes, triggered her radio, and tried to pretend she was dead, or at least unconscious. Naruto! Hinata turned to him, stunned, where are Keiko and Kei? Ha! Uzumaki was stunned to see his fiancée was ragged and bleeding from a few cuts, but mostly unharmed. His anger and fear abated, he unconsciously returned to his human form. I killed or knocked out Yugito, and broke the other one's leg, he answered, they are keeping the big guy busy so he can't fix her up. I heard you scream, his voice was accusing, with a strong undercurrent of worry. She hit me with a genjutsu. Hinata could not help but smile at his concern. I was surprised, but I felt worse, so I was able to break free. Great, he nodded, relieved. Then he frowned, his eyes narrowing, and asked, where's Hanabi? Hinata started. She had gotten so caught up in the end of the fight that she had forgotten their hurry. Conan said my sister and Madara are in that room. She pointed to the portal the paper user had emerged from. Come on, he grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. Not a fair trade, Nagato growled, but better than nothing. What? Guki Namikaze asked, I thought you said your animal path had come to. Those kids killed my Naraka path. They numbed him and then poisoned him, Lord Pain answered, but my animal path hit the girl. I am. She is still woozy, but I should be able to take the boy, too. Suddenly their communicators crackled to life, and they heard Naruto and Hinata converse. Conan, Nagato demanded, but did not receive an answer. His eyes went wild, but Guki placed a restraining hand on his student's shoulder. Someone had to turn on her radio, and I don't think it was the Leaf Ninjas, the lead rogue reminded the Rinnegan user. Conan, can you hear us? Guki prompted more levelly. Yes, came the harsh whisper, they are gone now. What is happening? Hinata got me, the kunoichi answered her master's inquiry. I was going to try to take her out with me, when Uzumaki showed up. They are headed towards Madara and Hanabi now. Can you move? Guki asked. Maybe, if I use my paper to help. Good, the X-rank criminal, I want both of you to retreat. Lord Guki. Nagato looked at his sensei in confusion. As I said before, Namikaze noted, your animal path might be replaceable, but losing Yugito would be a pity. And Conan cannot be replaced. You two are both injured, so help each other get away, while those two are focused on Uchiha. Understood. Conan could not keep the happiness out of her rough voice, and Nagato nodded. Quote. Me, Saru, Tori, Tatsu, Ne, Itachi's voice was chanting as the door swung violently inwards. Madara exhaled sharply at the disturbance. What is it, Conan? He barked, turning to look. But Itachi's already pale and cracked skin blanched further as Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga darted into the room. His Shanin Sharingan flitted between their faces, resting briefly on her silver eyes and his glowing whiskers. Black fire began to glow desperately around his eyes, but Naruto took a step closer. Madara remembered the Kyuubi's mocking request, and the Amaterasu faded. His mind raced, but he was already low on chakra, limiting his options. The first Uchiha tried to convince himself that the lump in his stomach was not fear. I cannot defeat them both, he decided hastily, not like this. I only have one choice. For an instant, his anger and hatred outweighed that feeling that wasn't terror. Susuri, he announced, and after one heartbeat, Itachi's body was restored to its pristine state. His skin was smoothed, and the crumbling digits were intact and restored. He gracefully turned the rest of the way, and rose to his feet, facing them head-on. The teens tensed, but before they could attack, Madara made his move. The immortal Flash stepped over to the wall, and glanced at Hanabi with greed and regret. Then he vanished through the hidden door. Madara! Naruto shouted, and charged the spot where Uchiha disappeared. Hanabi! Hinata cried out, crouching next to her sister. Naruto stopped short of tearing into the wall with a Rasengan, and joined his beloved and her sister. If I had tried to take her, Madara tried to console himself, it would have slowed me down, and forced them give chase. Madara Uchiha. Itachi's body stopped, as two Anbu agents appeared in front of him. The immortal's mouth briefly turned down, then he smirked at the new possibility. She was staring absently out the window, when they entered her room. She did not turn, or react in any way. They walked slowly over to her bed, and sat down beside it. Even when a gentle hand touched hers, she simply gazed at the clouds and the leaves. How is Hanabi? Hinata asked Tsunade anxiously. I removed the lingering effects of the Tsukuyomi, the Hokage offered, there is nothing physically wrong with her, but she remains generally non-responsive. Why? Naruto prompted. I'm not a psychologist, she warned them, but from what we were able to glean from the seals on her, and what little she has said, Madara was trying to break her spirit. If you two had arrived even 10 minutes later, she might not have any mind left. Will she be okay? The Hyuga heiress looked frightened, and her lover put his hands on her shoulders supportively. We'll do everything we can, but ultimately it is up to her. She might just keep retreating from the world. And if we try to force her to come back. Using genjutsu to treat mental illness has been attempted before, but it is dicey at best. We might accidentally finish what that bastard started. Isn't there anything we can do? Naruto's voice carried an unfamiliar tone of helplessness. Just be there with her. Let her know that you are there, and that you care. Hinata nodded. She took Naruto's hand off her shoulder, and led him out of the Sannin's second medical office. Naruto and Hinata sat there for over an hour, not speaking, Hinata warmly holding her sister's hand. Hanabi never acknowledged their presence, never looked away from the sky. Finally, their time with her ran out. Hinata reluctantly let go, and they both stood. Good night, Hanabi, the pale beauty said softly, we'll be back tomorrow. The couple walked towards the door. But as he reached for the handle, a sound stopped them. Uzumaki-san, Hanabi said weakly, and they both spun to face her. She had turned her head slightly, looking into the corner instead of at them. Hanabi, he responded cautiously. Thank you. I have been horrible to you, but you still came to rescue me. Of course, he agreed evasively, I'd never abandon another leaf ninja. Just like they wouldn't abandon me. That's not true, you know. She asked softly, there are those in the village who would not try to rescue you. Those in this room who would not have tried to save you. Maybe not, he shrugged, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't try to save them. Of course you would, her eyes welled up in tears, I'm sorry, Naruto. Then it was like floodgates burst within her. Hanabi sobbed uncontrollably, rocking back and forth, and chanting, thank you, I'm sorry. Over and over. Hinata rushed back across the room and wrapped her arms around her sister, holding the younger girl steady. Naruto joined them a heartbeat later, taking Hanabi's right hand in both of his. Both Naruto and Hinata found that they were crying as well. They held her like that, until she fell asleep. There was a rather rotund, and slightly familiar-looking doctor waiting for them in the hall, when they exited the tween's room. I thought it was best not to interrupt you, he told them, that was the most emotion she has shown since waking up. Is she going to be okay? Hinata asked the psychiatric specialist. If you had asked me an hour ago, I would have said no, he answered honestly, but I think her chance is better now. Hinata nodded with relief. Now, I heard you say intended to visit my brother's other student, the healer noted, visiting hours are over, but given the circumstances, I'll give you a pass. He scrawled something barely legible on a sheet from his prescription pad, and handed it to Hinata. This will get you 10 minutes with Keiko Takamaki, he explained, give it to the nurse and she will escort you. Thank, Doc, Naruto said gratefully. You're welcome. Now then, I trust I will see you here again tomorrow. Both teens nodded. Excellent. Good evening. 10 minutes, the severe-faced nurse advised them sharply as she closed the door. Naruto shuddered fearfully, and quickly turned to look at the young woman in the bed. Keiko Takamaki was asleep or unconscious, but the older man in the chair next to her glanced at them with bleary green eyes. He had dark gray hair, but naturally rather than the result of age. He wore a typical Jonin's uniform, but he wore 2 leaf headbands, one around each bicep. Hyuga Dono, Uzumaki-san, he greeted them, and Naruto frowned in thought, trying to remember if he had met the shinobi before. Naruto, this is Saburo Takamaki, Keiko's father. Hinata introduced her fiancé to her uncle-in-law. The two men nodded at one another. How is Keiko? Hinata asked anxiously. She is. He paused, searching for the words, she is about as good as we could hope for. It was close for a while, with all the blood she lost, but she is stable now. The healers have informed me that the paralysis she was experiencing was caused by the compression of her broken vertebrae, rather than actual nerve damage. She already has some feeling back, and once her back heals, she will be able to walk again. But no amount of medic treatment will fully remove the scars on her back. I'm sorry, Naruto said darkly, this is my fault. Yes, but also no, the Jonin glared at the younger man, you were the leader, and from what my nephew has told me, some of your decisions were questionable. However, my daughter and her cousin also bent the Hokage's instructions more than once. And you were right to go in when you thought Hinata was injured or dead, though you could have made sure Pain's body things were more completely disabled. But in the end, you were also the one who kept Keiko stable long enough for her to be properly treated. Also my daughter and nephew defeated Pain, or at least a part of him, Saburo said with proud satisfaction. He may have been tired, weakened, and injured from his previous battles, but they finished him, and that is an accomplishment. So even though I would like to blame you, Uzumaki-san, I find I cannot. Still, I am sorry. Then learn from this, so that you can do better next time. Naruto nodded, and Keiko's eyes fluttered open. Ruto, Hinata, she called out to them weakly, you came to see me. Of course we did, Keiko-chan, Hinata smiled at the younger woman. Sorry we woke you, Naruto added. Sok, she murmured, I been sleeping too much anyway. We were happy to hear you were going to be okay, Keiko-chan, the pale beauty told her. Yeah, the Genin sighed wistfully, and I'm gonna have some really cool battle scars, too. But it's a good thing I can hide them, or that twins thing wouldn't work anymore. Her eyes fluttered closed again. The painkillers they gave her are a little strong, her father noted. But if I know Keiko-chan, she really will be happy to have some cool battle scars, the Hyuga heiress countered. Yeah, the Takamaki clan member grinned slightly. You were right, Hinata Dono. She will at that. There was a knock at the door, and the frightening nurse stared in at them. We will come back tomorrow, Hinata told him, as the young couple hurried over to the door. The Jonin nodded his thanks, and could not resist an icy shiver as the medic's gaze settled on him. Sakura, I thought you were supposed to be staying in bed, Kakashi Hatake admonished his student as he entered her room. The young woman had swept aside the curtain that was meant to divide the room in two, and was doing one-armed pull-ups on the reinforced rod. Her left arm was still in a sling and her left shoulder was bandaged. I know, Kakashi-sensei, she dropped down, and bounced back over to her bed, lying down, but my shoulder feels fine, and I'm just so full of energy I can't sit still. I've been checking my sutures, and even healing myself a little bit, and everything seems good. I'm ready to get started on therapy. Then she frowned thoughtfully, and pondered aloud, all this energy I have, could it be because of Naruto's blood? We can't rule out the possibility, he agreed simply, is that why you asked me to come here, so I would talk to the Hokage about pushing up the timetable of your recovery. Her expression darkened further, and she shook her head slightly. No, there was something else I wanted to ask you about, she answered apprehensively. What is it? He prompted carefully, recognizing her melancholy. Kakashi-sensei, do you think I'm strong? She asked quickly, almost desperately, not physically strong, but just in general. Of course you are strong, Sakura, he answered easily, you made Jonin after all. Not everyone can do that. But you always say rank doesn't equal power, she countered, like Naruto was still a genin just over a year ago, and he was still considered one of the strongest leaf ninjas. And being a jonin is based mostly on skill, which is why you get people like Ebisu and that Duke that Naruto fought. That is all true, he conceded, not sure what else he could say. So would you say I am in the top 50 strongest leaf ninjas? She queried suddenly after a few moments' consideration. Yes, certainly. Then what about the top 20? Or the top 10? She pursued him. Sakura, I don't sit around all day ranking my Leaf Village comrades, he stated, trying to sound like he wasn't evading her question. You'd have to ask the Hokage something like that, and even then, the answer is at least somewhat subjective. You're dodging the question, she shot back, am I in the top 20 Leaf Ninjas? In my opinion, he qualified pointedly, yes, you are one of the 20 strongest ninjas in the village. Top 10. Her voice and face told him she already suspected the answer. No, he said as gently as he could, probably not. But there are currently almost 500 active Leaf Shinobi, he tried to mollify her, even if most of them are Genin and Chunin, being considered one of the 20 strongest at your age is an impressive achievement. What about those two? She demanded. Which two? He deflected innocently. Don't pull that, Kakashi-sensei, she barked, Hinata and Naruto. Sakura, he tried to stop her. Naruto's in the top 5, right? She demanded forcefully, him, you, Tsunade-sensei, Jiraiya, and Might Guy, right? He did not answer, and she plowed onwards. I mean, that knucklehead beat Madara and Pain, so he has to be pretty high up there, Tokujo or not. Sakura, his voice was gentle, and she glared at him. He sighed, and shrugged. Fine, he relented, without stipulating to any specific order, I would agree with your assessment of the 5 Leaf Ninjas who are most dangerous in battle. Not necessarily most skilled, or even the best shinobi, just the 5 with the highest combat ability. She nodded, but was not about to let him go at that. And Hinata, she continued, she beat Konan alone, something it took all 3 members of Team Hisashi to do. There is strong evidence Konan was not serious in either battle, he interjected, and from what I have heard, Hinata was generally evenly matched against Konan, while Yugao, Iruka, and Anko defeated her fairly easily. Still, she's in the top 20, too, isn't she? He nodded. Top 10. He did not answer, which was all she needed. She collapsed with a sigh. So Hinata is that far ahead of me? She asked herself as much as him. If Hinata is in the top 10, she's only number 9 or 10, the copy ninja tried to comfort her, and I never said where in the top 20 I think you are. Then am I top 15? She prodded darkly. Sakura, I think you are putting too much emphasis on combat ability, he sidestepped her again, you are also one of the 3 best healers in the village. She smiled slightly at that, but only for an instant. For a few minutes, they sat there in silence, Sakura thinking, and Kakashi unsure what he should or even could do for his student. How can I catch up? She finally asked. Sakura. I can catch up, can't I? She sounded desperate again. I mean, before Naruto came back, would you have put Hinata in the top 20? Or even before she started training with him? Probably not. He decided to stop trying to dodge her questions. So if she can come that far in 19 months, I should be able to catch up, right? She appeared reassured rather than upset by his agreement. I'm sure you can, Sakura. If you really want to. What does that mean? She asked dubiously. He sighed. If I tell you, you have to promise that it doesn't go beyond this room, he said nervously. I promise, she said eagerly. Then, he exhaled, still anxious, then I'd have to say you need to stop training with the Hokage. She frowned at him, and prompted, what does that mean? Lady Tsunade is an incredible kunoichi and healer, he said quietly, as if afraid he would be overheard, but there is a certain fundamental flaw in her style. And her methods are not necessarily the best suited for you. What are you talking about? She lowered her voice as well. For the first part, he explained, Lady Tsunade says that a medical ninja is obligated to stay healthy, because otherwise no one can heal the squad. That's why she focused a lot of your training on dodging, and analyzing an enemy's style. She nodded. And then for combat, she taught you close combat with her incredible strength, Kakashi stated, trying to keep the disapproval from his voice, which means if you want to contribute in battle, you have to put yourself in the most danger. Oxymoronic, wouldn't you say? Sakura nodded in spite of herself. Which brings me to my second point, he moved on, you know what the 3 basic types of chakra users are. Taijutsu types, who excel at using their chakra in or close to their own bodies, she ticked off the fingers of her good hand, ninjutsu types, who excel at using chakra outside of their bodies, and genjutsu types, who excel at inserting their chakra into another person's body. I've never liked those labels, he noted, since the type of chakra user you are doesn't directly relate to those types of ninja arts, but they are the common usage, so I use them. She nodded again. Lady Tsunade is a taijutsu type, he resumed, which is why she is so good at focusing her strength. Taijutsu types are also the second best type for healing, because their chakra still has some native connection to the human body. But Lady Tsunade has both a talent for healing and a personal drive that have allowed her to surpass even genjutsu type medics. But you said I am a genjutsu type, she remembered. Which is part of why you are such a good healer, he agreed, but it also means that Lady Tsunade's physical techniques are not as well suited for you. Don't get me wrong, he added defensively, you have mastered and even excelled at what she has taught you, particularly the muscle boosting. And that leads me to my third point, he frowned slightly. But you only had 2 points. I had 2 points against Lady Tsunade, he shook his head, the last point is against the 2 of us. Part of the reason Naruto and Hinata have surpassed you is because they have had more teachers than you. You have only had me and Lady Tsunade, and to be honest, I've never given you the level of attention I should have. But Naruto has had myself, Jiraiya, Lady Tsunade, Iruka, and Anko, plus some of the personal studying he has done to master his mother's ninjutsu and taijutsu. Hinata had Kurenai, then Naruto, Lady Tsunade, myself, and more recently Shizune, Tenten, and Temari. Sakura nodded, and then asked neutrally, so what do you suggest, Kakashi-sensei? In general, I think you should broaden your horizons. But specifically, and this is just my opinion, you should become more of a ranged fighter. Your team already has Naruto and Hinata, both of whom can function at either close or mid-range. You should hang back, assisting them at long range, so you can also be ready to heal them. How can I assist them at long range? He considered that, and answered, again, this is just me, but I think you should learn more genjutsu. If you can confuse or trick your opponents, it will give Hinata and Naruto a better chance to land a killing blow. She nodded. Also, you might try learning to shoot a bow. Given your strength, you could put an arrow through an enemy, even if he was standing behind a brick wall. It would give you a way to use your physical power, while still staying out of range. Sakura's brow narrowed in thought. I'll think about that, she said, thanks Kakashi-sensei. Sorry for being such a pain. It's the prerogative of a student to ask the teachers hard questions, he countered glibly, just let me know if there is anything else I can do to help. I will, she smiled up at him. Lady Tsunade, thank you for coming, Hiashi Hyuga offered formally as the Hokage entered his hospital room. Of course, she nodded, I was hoping for a chance to check on you anyway. If we might get that out of the way first. Please, he agreed. In the 2 weeks since his battle with Madara, Hiashi had made an almost miraculous, if incomplete, recovery. Or perhaps it would be more accurate to say an infernal recovery, the Sannin medic decided silently, considering the source. The Hyuga leader was now hairless from the neck up as well, though there were indications that his hair and eyebrows were starting to grow back. His skin was mostly healed, though here and there the worst of the burns had left their scars. Hiashi also had recovered almost full movement of his limbs, though his left fingers and toes were sluggish. Unfortunately, his right eye had barely recovered at all, though intact, it had taken on a yellowish hue, and Hiashi could only make out the dullest of lights and shadows with it. The doctors had ordered him not to use the Byakugan, as it would put more stress on the weakened orb, and might arrest any further recovery. You are doing better than I would have suspected, she told him smugly. I owe it to my son-in-law, Hiashi noted, mirroring her thoughts. Aren't you getting a little ahead of yourself? Her smirk widened. Perhaps, a little, he shrugged. All right, then what did you want to talk to me about? She switched gears rather than start gossiping about her student's love life. It is about Hinata, the Hyuga Lord started. What about her? I have been told that it is unlikely I will make a full recovery, he deflected slightly, and particularly worrisome is the damage to my eye, and the effect it will have on my Byakugan. In addition, my clan is still looking for a fifth elder. So I have been thinking I might want to step aside for my daughter sooner, rather than later. Tsunade inhaled sharply, and stared at him in disbelief. I am not speaking of the immediate future, he explained, but I am considering a timetable of 1 to 2 years, rather than 8 to 10 years. Still, I can't imagine you would have even suggested this a year or two ago, she noted. Hinata has changed, and so have I, he countered. 2 years ago, she would never openly defied her grandfather, and I probably would not have supported her if she had. Okay, but why come to me? The Hokage questioned. Because, even if I were to decide to wait 27 months, that would be just after Hinata's 19th birthday, Hiashi reasoned, making her the youngest ever leader of the Hyuga clan by almost 3 years. There will be many who would be resistant, and I would need the support of the Hokage to help convince them. She nodded, understanding the politics of the situation. Then she frowned again. What about her and Naruto? She prompted, if she's Hyuga clan leader, it will be harder for them to get married. Actually, we have spoken about that, and she has been formulating a plan. He explained his daughter's idea, and Tsunade chuckled. The knucklehead is definitely rubbing off on her, but she just might be able to make it work, if she has the elder's support. Has she talked to Naruto yet? I don't think so, Hiashi grinned ruefully. I wonder how he will react. Kakashi, Yugao, Tsunade's mood, uplifted her conversation with Hiashi, fell as she made her next stop. Lady Tsunade, the couple greeted her in unison. In a crib in the corner of the hospital room, Ray burbled happily and shook a kunai-shaped rattle. I have a couple of things I want to discuss with you too, their leader said darkly, neither of them particularly pleasant. So I guess we'll go with mostly fact before pure speculation. Both Jonan frowned seriously at her. Yugao, I know, despite Sop, you were pretty close with Toa and Komaki while you were in Anbu, the Hokage started, and the younger woman nodded, not sure why the Sannin was bringing it up at this point. When I sent Naruto's team to rescue Hanabi, I had Toa and Komaki follow them, Tsunade explained. If Naruto's group didn't make it in time, I didn't think those kids would have been able to kill Hanabi's body to get to Madara. So I sent the Anbu to finish the job, if necessary. I couldn't risk Madara gaining the Byakugan in addition to the Sharingan. But Naruto and Hinata saved Hanabi, Kakashi interjected, confused, as she paused, though one of Hanabi's teammates was seriously injured. Yes, the Sannin conceded, but Toa and Komaki chose to stretch my orders. They went after Madara anyway. And, Yugao prompted dubiously. Komaki is downstairs in intensive care, Tsunade answered. She was gravely hurt in the fight, and used her acupuncture to keep her body going so she could report back, but that further aggravated her injuries. Toa did not come back, she continued. We sent units to investigate the site of the battle. They did not find Toa's remains, but they did find what was left of Itachi's body. Yugao inhaled in shock, and Kakashi frowned deeper at the implication. That, combined with what Komaki was able to tell us, leads me to believe that Madara has taken Toa's body instead of Hanabi's. That is not good, the copy ninja noted. Madara could be even more dangerous, with Toa's chakra tattoos. He might not be able to use them correctly, Tsunade speculated, and Madara was never very good with weapons. That doesn't matter, Kakashi shook his head in denial. Madara will figure it out. Then all he has to do is find the right weapon masters and watch them with his Sharingan. For a few moments, they stood in silent thought, until Yugao remembered Tsunade's introductory statement. What was the other thing did you wanted to tell else, Lady Tsunade? The younger Kunoichi asked. There was something odd about Pain's attack, the Hokage answered. He didn't kill anyone, even though he had the chance, especially with Sakura. So we watched the tapes, to study his fighting style. As we would have expected, it bore a strong resemblance to Jiraiya's style. But what we were not expecting, was that certain moves more closely resembled Orochimaru or Sarutobi-sensei's methods. An apprentice of Orochimaru and the third who tries not to kill his opponents. Kakashi shuddered. That sounds like Guki Namikaze. Tsunade filled in after her trailed off. We could be wrong. Pain could have learned from Orochimaru while they were both in the Akatsuki, and the other points could be coincidence. But we can't be sure that he isn't connected to Guki, either. The door to Keiko Takamiki's hospital room slid open, and 3 pairs of eyes turned to look at the newcomer. And all 6 green orbs widened simultaneously in disbelief. Saburo Takamiki's jaw dropped, while Kei recovered his composure. Both men scrambled to their feet. And Keiko blinked and shook her head dubiously. I'm sorry, Hanabi Hyuga quailed under their scrutiny. She looked smaller to them. Though her form was no different, her self-confidence and self-importance had always made her seem larger. Now her trepidation made her look shorter and thinner by comparison. If this a bad time, I can come back later, she offered softly. No. Please stay Hanabi-san. Hanabi-san, Saburo insisted. Unlike his daughter and nephew, he was still not comfortable speaking to the young woman without using the deferential honorific. Thank you, Takamaki-san, she bowed. Then she faced her teammates and shuddered slightly when she looked at IV tubes running into Keiko's arm. Hanabi could tell her comrade had lost some weight as well. What can we do for you? Kei asked evenly. Nothing, Hanabi shook her head. I just wanted to see how Keiko is doing, and to thank you. And not just for rescuing me. I have not been a good teammate to you too, but you have always stood by me, and you came to rescue me. Her eyes started leaking again, and Keiko looked surprised again. I'm sorry, Hanabi said in a self-chastising manner, wiping away her tears, and I am sorry, for everything. Kei crossed the room, and gently led Hanabi over to the chair he had vacated. Sorry, she said again, hiccuping. It's fine, he told her. No it's not, she countered. Hinata tried to show me, even to tell me directly, that how I was treating people was wrong. Naruto-san, too. But I was too full of myself. Then she looked around at them. I never even asked how we were related, she said softly. I know my mother was a Takamaki, but I never bothered to find out anything more than that. I never cared. We're cousins, Keiko said bluntly, the drugs removing any residual subservience she felt towards her younger comrade. Your mom was my dad's older sister. Hanabi closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. She smiled slightly as she exhaled. If it's not too much trouble, could you tell me about my mother sometime, Uncle Saburo? The white-eyed girl asked. I would like that. The Jonin relaxed for the first time since the girl had entered the room. Then the door opened again, and a nurse stuck her head in. Miss Hyuga, it is time for your appointment, she said reproachfully. But I haven't even asked how Keiko is, Hanabi deflated further. They say I'll be stuck in this bed for 2 months, and then I'll need up to a year of therapy to get back the strength in my legs and flexibility in my back. I'm sure you'll want to find a new team. Keiko, her father barked angrily. But Hanabi smiled and placed her hand on the other kunoichis. I deserve that, but I will not abandon you, any more than you abandoned me, the twin said regretfully. I will do anything I can to help, and work hard on my own, so by the time you are well, I will be able to stand beside you as I should have before. Good, you better, Keiko shot back, but this time her rejoinder was more kind. Come, Hanabi-san, the nurse prompted again. May I come see you later? Hiyashi's daughter requested. Yeah, I think I might like that, Keiko smiled at her, and Hanabi smiled back. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.